I hate to break it to you, but your bathroom tub could be ruining the design of your bathroom. And no, I don't mean it's dirty or outdated. No, I mean the actual size, shape, and style of the tub itself, and the application in terms of the scale and proportion in your space. The wrong tub isn't just a design mistake, it's also a lifestyle choice, because this is a really important detail that a lot of people do not consider. One of my favorite parts of designing a space for clients is the bathroom. They are so personalized and user specific. There is a list of questions I always ask clients on how they live in a space, especially when it comes to how they operate in a bathroom, because this can be an oasis or a trendy graveyard. In this video, I'm gonna give you a breakdown of why a tub is so important and its specific application and how the right one will work for yours. People ask me, why does a tub matter so much in a bathroom? The tub is usually the largest item in your bathroom, which means it is going to carry a lot of visual weight, and it's usually one of the first things that you're going to notice. If it's too small, it creates an awkward proportion and it looks out of place. If it's too big, it overwhelms the room and it limits the actual space that you have. If it's the wrong shape, it's going to interrupt sight lines and it's going to once again feel off. My principal rule when it comes to tubs, and much like any other details in interior design, is scale and proportion. The tub should be harmonized and not dominate the space. Spatial planning and function is at the core of the bathtub design and how it's going to work in your space. Tubs need a lot of breathing room, especially when it comes to a freestanding one, so you need to make sure that it's scaled and proportioned in a corner or off to the side. You also need to consider the lifestyle of how the tub is being used. Do you soak regularly, or is it purely there for aesthetic? This also comes down to the function and aesthetic form of how the tub operates in your space. You need to also keep in mind the overall size restrictions of the tub and the proportions of your room, whether you're doing a built-in, a drop-in, acrylic, or a freestanding. For example, your standard tubs are usually 60 inches, which is about 5 feet, which is what people would typically use in a drop-in format that will have a tub shower combo. And of course, the bigger the tub, the higher the price. Materials and finishes are another really important factor when it comes to choosing the tub and how it actually operates from both an aesthetic and a functional standpoint, because the last thing you need is buying a tub and it's super stained or it doesn't actually work the way you need it to. There's a multitude of different finishes and I'm gonna break them down for you. We're gonna start with acrylic. It's probably the most lightweight, most affordable, and it's the easiest to install, but it is also the most delicate. Cast iron is always a great option, but it's going to be costly, extremely expensive, and very heavy. So depending on where this bathroom is located, if it's on the second floor, you may need additional supports or a truss that actually runs through to maintain the weight of this bathtub. Stone resin or composite tubs have been on the rise in terms of its trend and format, and they can be beautiful in certain settings. And they really have this organic modern feel to them. The problem is, depending on the finish, they can stain really easily, especially if you go the matte route. There's the acrylic ones, which I personally love. Having that transparent bathtub, especially if it's a freestanding, I think is such a beautiful moment. Keep in mind, this does limit your privacy. So if that bathroom door is not locked, someone's gonna walk in and they're gonna see everything that you don't want them to. A pro tip when it comes to your bathtub is to think about the sense of repetition and how it's paired with the other items in your bathroom itself. If you are going for a white tub, I want you to think about a white toilet and how that white sink interact with that visual connection in the space versus doing a black or a different stone finish. You want that sense of repetition, because if you have a white bathtub and nothing else creates that connection visually for your eyes to follow, it's gonna look out of place. Now we've talked about the finishes. I wanted to talk about the type of tubs, because once again, I'm going to confuse you because there are so many tubs out there. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what's going to work for you. A freestanding tub is the dream that everyone wants, but you do require a lot of additional space for it. It is beautiful and it is sculptural. I always recommend doing this as a center placement, which does require more space, and it always looks chic in my opinion. The one downside to a freestanding tub is that it is harder to clean around, especially if it's in a wet area and if it's closely confined to a wall. Because I love you guys so much, I've also done a little breakdown, so you're going to know what's budget, what's affordable, and also what's a sense of luxury in terms of brands to look for freestanding tubs. Vanity art, I would say, is probably your most budget-friendly item, which is available at almost any single hardware store. These freestanding tubs usually range between $700 to $1,200. Your mid-range is going to be Agua. This is another really great attainable brand that you can get at hardware stores or special orders from plumbing shops. These usually range between $1,500 and can cost up to about $3,000. And if you really want to splurge on that luxury high-end freestanding tub, the Toto or the Antonio Lupi is an absolute dream. These tubs range anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000, which I know is a very hefty price tag, but in my opinion, if you're a regular soaker, this is gonna be worth it. Next, we're gonna have your alcove tubs, whether they are rectangular or your corner ones. I typically avoid the corner ones because I find that they are really dated and they take up a lot of additional space that feels more forced in a space than instead of feeling like it's part of the design. And when I talk about those alcove ones, those corner motel ones that are probably shaped like a heart. The rectangular drop-in tubs is something I will always recommend over the acrylic fronts, because what's great about these is that they're not only convenient, they minimize on the footprint, but they also maximize on the interior width and dimension of the tub itself. These are efficient, practical, and great for smaller spaces, especially if you are working with your minimal footprint in a condo renovation. Let's jump back to the drop-in tubs for a moment, because I know some people may be confused. A drop-in tub is very different from an acrylic front tub, even though they look very similar. A drop-in tub will require framing around the perimeter and it drops in the front, which allows the front part of this tub or the sides, depending on where it's installed, to be tiled the same finish as the floor or the interior part of the shower. The acrylic tubs are usually a front face and a top face, which means the front is always going to be visible with an acrylic face, which is what you would standardly see in any kind of condo that is going to be your standard size. These are my product recommendations if you are looking for a drop-in tub that is going to be tiled on the front. To start with your budget, it's going to be American Standard. These range from anywhere to $400 up to $1,200, and honestly, these are fantastic. These standard sizes are always going to be a really attainable price point. Even Miralyn is another one I would recommend if you're on a budget. For your mid-range, I would recommend American Standard or Duravit. These are going to be your $1,200 to about $3,000 price range, and what's really nice about these is these acrylic ones are a little bit thicker, so they actually feel more substantial if you're soaking, and it doesn't feel like you're floating in a very thin confined tub. If you have the budget for a luxury, there's two I'm going to recommend. First is the Victoria and Albert. Those guys range from $3,000 to $10,000, and they are like next level in terms of the shape and style because they actually follow the ergonomics of how you would sit in a tub and be comfortable. Bagno Italia is another one that follows the ergonomics. They're a little bit cheaper, but when I say cheaper, they're about $3,000 to $8,000. I know we've gone through a lot of things, but these are the style mistakes that you need to avoid. I've seen far too many people select those beautiful ornate clawfoot tubs and match them with a very modern interior. This is a disconnect that looks so out of place. Glossy chrome tubs feel completely out of place in any setting. The finish, like I said before, needs to feel consistent and repeat itself more than once. I personally prefer a matte tub over a glossy one, but keep in mind it does collect grime a lot quicker, which means it requires heavier cleaning. A tub squeezed too tightly into a space will always look out of place. You want at least 8 to 10 inches on the backside as well as both sides for it to feel proportionate in a room. Choosing a tub isn't purely just for aesthetic. I need you to also recognize the drain location. A standard drain in the middle is something I would always recommend, or on the side where the tub filler is, whether it be left or right. This is also really important to consider of how you're actually laying in the tub itself. The last thing I want to see is a tub filler on the opposite side of where the drain is, because you're going to be sitting on it and you're going to be naked, at least, well, the average person is probably going to be naked in a bathtub. And if you have to sit on one of those drains, it is wildly uncomfortable. So we've talked about how to pick the right tub. These are the last questions that I'm going to leave you with. Ask, what is the main role of this tub itself? Is it purely for aesthetic and form, or does it follow function? Do you have kids? How is this application going to work, whether you're doing a curtain or a glass panel? And if you are having a glass panel with kids, I always recommend that glass panel being on a 180 pivot, so you actually move it out of the way so you can access the full bathtub itself and not just the side. Considering the room size as well as the plumbing stack locations is extremely important. If you are doing a renovation on any size of a bathroom, understanding where the existing plumbing stacks are and where they can be relocated is really important, especially if you are doing it in a condo. There are certain walls that you cannot actually go between, especially if they are barrier between two units, which means the plumbing has to run up to the ceiling over to the other side. So keep that in mind because it's going to cost a little bit more. Stick to organic modern principles. Clean lines, very simple, subtle details. You do not need to have ornate bathtubs that have this huge shape or ones that look like a shoe, because these, the ones that I'm going to put up, are beyond. I have no idea who has actually put one of these in their house because they look absolutely terrible. Think of the tub as part of your daily ritual, not as just a standalone piece. How often are you using it? How often are you cleaning it? And what products are you using it, and how that's going to stain and affect the use of the tub itself, especially when it comes to the finishes, whether it's porcelain, ceramic, acrylic, or glass. And yes, when I say glass, I have seen the tempered glass tubs. Those are on a next level, and the price point is just so beyond. You should not be spending upwards of $100,000 on a tub. And if you are, you know where to find me to hire me. So remember, the tub is not just the centerpiece in a room. I know there's been far too many people that have been designing bathrooms specifically to have a beautifully sculptural tub as the focal point, and it is literally never used. I'd much rather you enjoy a larger shower without a tub if it's something that you need to consider. And when it comes to selecting it, make sure you have the right size, the right shape, and the right finish. Now I'm gonna start a debate in the comments because I need to know, are you a tub person or a shower? And if you were renovating a space with a tub, would you keep it for resale value or convert it to a shower because that's what you want personally? This is always an interesting take, and I love when people chime in because I really like to know how people live in a space and how they would operate if they have that option to renovate a bathroom. Now I talked about a lot of rules when it comes to the bathtub applications for your bathroom itself, but it is just important to understand the worst design trends for bathrooms to stay away with, and this is the video you're gonna have to watch on that. As always, thank you so much for watching. That's all for today's video. You can always follow me on Instagram and TikTok for all my daily tips and tricks at Mr. Phoenix Gray, and if you're ever second guessing yourself, just ask, well, what Design Daddy do?